Hey guys, welcome back to Bag Only, the inventory only UIM, no storage, all that stuff. Just noticed the end of the last episode we ended up with the hunter level for maple birdhouses. However, we're still shy one crafting level just to be able to make those. So just to start this episode out, I'm just really quickly going to go over to Ardi Monastery here, run over to Port Khazard, buy some glass, make some fish bowls. I think I calculated something like 60 glass and fish bowls. So just be a couple of invents down here, run up to the furnace, make them, and then just sell them at the general store for a small loss. Just to get this crafting level, and then obviously we can move up a tier in birdhouses, so that'll be cool to start off with. So I started off doing that. I just stopped 500 XP shy in crafting, just because we're right next to the Tower of Life quest, which we do need to do at some stage anyway, so I thought I'd just knock it out now, just push that crafting level over 45. I went to prep for the quest, went and grabbed some stuff. When I was out there, I went to Lumbridge and got a raw chicken, and I ran up to Catherby and I barehand fished a raw swordfish. Just because after the quest, once we unlock the Tower of Life, we can do this thing called creature creation, and if you bring a chicken and a swordfish, you can make this sword chick mutant creature in the basement, and killing one of those is a diary task, so just knock that out at the same time, so that's cool. Got ourselves an acorn from a birdhouse, so I just really quickly grabbed some super compost from our RD bin from a few episodes back. Still a couple of doses in there, so we're still just kind of using that at the moment. I'll have to refill it one day, but we're not doing a super huge amount of farming yet, so that's fine. Also on my rounds, I just really quickly went to Yanil and I completed a diary task by scooping some sand from this sand pit. Interestingly, this is one of the only tasks which is actually easier for a UIM than any other kind of account. For a normal account, you have a different diary task where you have to speak to a guy and claim free sand into your bank every day. But obviously we don't have a bank, so they just replaced the task for UIMs to just get yourself a bucket of sand from this sand pit, which actually doesn't require the quest. So this is, a slightly easier task for us, but we'll definitely do hand in the sand at some stage. So anyway, with our little crafting intro out the way, we just went and did our first maple birdhouse run, get a nice little bit of extra XP for doing these over the teak ones, and actually it's easier to get to maple trees. The only real teak tree we could get to at this stage in the account is this one all the way down here by Castle Wars that I demonstrated last episode. But now we can fairy ring over to the Legends Guild. There's a bunch of maple trees right next to there, so it's actually easier to get to those. And we do actually need to be close to a fairy ring anyway to fairy ring over to Draenor and buy the seeds for our birdhouse run. So we save a little bit of time now when we do a birdhouse run, and we get a little bit more XP per one, so that's really nice to have. So today I'd like to work a little bit on our construction skill. I've said in the past that I'd like to get to at least 50 to unlock some portals for us so we can teleport around. It requires a bit of cash, and we do have around 30k on us. So what I'm going to do is just go and attempt the Mahogany Homes construction minigame. I've never done this before. I've done the equivalent on RS3, but supposedly it's meant to be really, really good. Basically, instead of building things in your own house, you train construction by fixing items in NPCs' houses. And once you've done a full contract, you get like a boost of construction XP, so you get a lot more XP per plank doing this method. And there's also a reward shop. You get some reward points each contract you do. To start out, I'm going to be starting on the regular difficulty contracts using standard planks, not least because they're free on the ground in a couple of places around the game, as you've seen so far already. You also require some steel bars to do these contracts, so I just used our nature runes here just to superheat some steel bars outside the monastery telly, because it's a really good place. There's iron and coal ore right here at a teleport spot, so I'll be using this going forward for quite a few contracts. So what I did is I went to Varrock for our first contract, repaired everything in this guy's house, and we just got ourselves 2 reward points, and we got ourselves a construction level, leaving us at 27. Grabbed a few more planks over at Khazard and did another task over in Osidious. Had to walk to this one because we didn't have the inventory space to keep the Khared's Memoirs book that we got in the other episode on us, so I had to sail here from Port Sarim and just run down. It wasn't too painful, and it got us into the level up to level 28. I was liking these contracts, since we did have a nice couple of lore runes on us, so it did mean we could teleport to Falador to pick up new contracts, and then more often than not teleport to where the contract was. Although if we do run out of lore runes, these are going to be a lot slower to do. So what I decided to do is head over to our good boy Ali Morrisane. We sold our little stack of death runes we had here, just from selling a few cats for about 30k cash. We used 20k of this to buy 60 lores, just so we had a nice handful of tellies to do more contracts going forward. And we also had a little bit of buffer money to play with, so we could move up to oak planks for a bit, just see how much construction XP this amount of cash would get us. Using oak planks for these contracts yields more XP per contract and more reward points per one you do, so it's a lot more efficient if you can afford to do it. Plus we don't have to go hop worlds to pick up plank spawns from the ground. So we settled into doing some oak plank runs. I made a few steel bars either over in Falador Mine, because we did have to return to Falador every time to pick up a new contract from the estate agent there. Or alternatively, sometimes I just teleported to the monastery if that was easier. With our steel bars, I would then either Chronicle or Varrock teleport spell over to Varrock, cut ourselves an inventory of oak logs on the way up to the sawmill, and then just pay to have those turned into oak planks. And then we'd head off, do our contract, and then teleport back to Falador and rinse and repeat. Just on the way round, I did check that oak tree we planted earlier this episode just for a sliver of farming XP. As you might remember, they only reward something like 400 each, so it's really not very good, but we do need to keep pushing our farming to get to some actual milestones. We were a little bit tight running around with all these construction materials. You do need a lot of things to do these contracts. So I temporarily unequipped and alchemised our strength amulet into coins. We'll be able to go back and get that back next time we want to do combat, but we're not going to do combat for a little while here. So I ditched that just so we can equip our dig site pendant and dueling ring teleport jewellery onto our character, and this will free up 2 invent spaces. Hopefully by doing this will allow us to bring all the materials we need to complete these construction contracts in a single trip rather than 2 trips, because obviously 2 trips will be a lot less efficient per one. What's nice about these contracts is the clients offer you a cup of tea once you've finished repairing everything, and if you agree to this then it gives you your 100% full run energy back, so it allows you to keep up the pace with doing these contracts without having to constantly walk everywhere, so that's really helpful. Obviously our long-term goal here is the 50 construction I mentioned earlier, just so we can whip up some portals in our house. The use of this will be if we only carry the runes on us in order to teleport to our house, then we can subsequently use our portal network in order to teleport to various other places and not need the different varieties of runes on us all the time to teleport there. Obviously it's a little bit slower, we have to kind of rebound off our house in order to teleport places, but due to the nature of our account we want as many free invent slots as possible. So in the meantime I did a quick birdhouse run. We got ourselves 2 acorns from a single run, so I just had to really quickly make a detour to plant both of these because that's a lot of potential farming experience. I did make sure to use compost on both these acorns just because we're not actually allowed to pay the NPC to protect these trees on this account, because oak trees specifically require a basket full of tomatoes as a payment, and you do have to fill a basket with tomatoes yourself, so that is essentially an inventory enhancing container, so we can't pay to guarantee that the tree is grown, but we can put compost on it to up the chances, so hopefully both these grow, because we're currently 24 farming, and we've got a few nice upcoming milestones in farming. 27 will let us do apple trees, which is our first fruit tree, and then obviously level 30 farming I think is what we need for willows, which is the second tier of regular tree here. We also need level 30 farming and willows in order to do a quest called Enlightened Journey, which I feel like I've mentioned before, which is going to be sometime down the line whenever we get there. Anyway, back to construction. At this point we've done 31 contracts total, and we're completely out of cash. Even oak planks, even though they're only the second tier of 4 planks, they end up really expensive once you do a couple of construction runs. So just to scrape by, we actually teleported over to Berthorpe and went to the Rogue's Den shop that we unlocked in the previous episode when we got 50 thieving. The reason we go here is because this NPC buys items off you at high alchemy price, so we actually get more money for stuff if we come sell them to this guy rather than if we just go to a generic general store. So we unequipped and sold all our just combat gear, our snake skin and all that stuff, just to get as many coins as we could, and we alchemised our steel gloves into some more coins. While here, since we're not doing combat for a while, I did decide, sadly, to finally say goodbye to our awesome dragon longsword that we picked up in the other episode. It did cost us 100k to buy this, and we can only high alchemize it into 60k, so it does seem like a bit of a loss, but we also have to remember that we've done a lot of combat training over at Crabs using this sword now, so it's kind of outlived its purpose, and we're not doing combat in the immediate future, so I'm more than happy to turn this into plank money, just so we can progress our construction a little bit. Plus, the higher our melee stats get, the better a rune skin becomes in comparison to this dragon longsword, because it does attack faster. So I guess we'll just be sticking with probably the rune skin from ZMI Warriors if we need to do combat in future. And then after that we'll probably do Monkey Madness and move on to a Dragon Skin. So with a little bit of cash we also ran down to Ali just to sell another lot of death runes that we got from a cat. Like I think I said before, 3 hours of raising a cat gives you 18,000 coins worth of death runes to sell to this dude, so it's always worth doing. 18k cash is quite a lot of oak planks, so we sold those runes and got some more cash. Since we were also near Alcarid Mine and the associated crafting shop and gem shop, we just grabbed a few supplies to make a couple of bracelets just at a furnace, just because we could get a little bit of money for selling a bit of gold jewellery. Honestly, just as kind of a little bit of a break. So after pawning off our personal belongings, we ended up with a cash stack of around 82,000 coins, which is pretty good. The second highest cash stack we've had yet on this account so far, I think. Anyway, we started this episode at 25 construction. We've done enough contracts at this point to get ourselves up to 45. What we want is to get to 48. Like I say, we do want 50, but we can do a +2 boost with a cup of tea in our house. So we do only actually need to get to 48 immediately in order to boost and make our portals. Since we've been doing construction by fixing other people's houses up, we've actually been kind of neglecting our own house. It's looking a bit scuffed. So I did a detour, I chopped some teak logs, and we spent a little bit of money making some higher tier teak planks in order to upgrade the kitchen in our house, add ourselves a nice teak larder. Obviously from the teak larder you can get things like milk and tea and things like that, so we could actually do our boost. We also grabbed materials to make some glass and some steel bars, just so we could upgrade some other crafting stations inside our house. We turned our clock-making table into a level 4 one, which does unlock some more little things that you can craft there. Don't think it's super essential for the account, but a tier 4 should probably be enough to do all the quest-specific crafts, like the penguin suit and all that stuff later down the line. We also added a workbench to our workshop. This allows us to make flat-pack furniture if we decide to train that way later. We probably won't, but... Also, since we passed 44 construction, we made sure that we updated our tool stores to the highest possible level. Now we've got Tool Store 4, as you can see on this graphic, we've unlocked access to all of these tools whenever we need them. We're just missing Tool Store 5, which gives you, I think, all the different farming tools, like seed dibbers, secateurs, all that stuff. So that's really, really helpful. Like I've said before, we're not considering this as storage. I've said this from the outset. It generates unlimited of any of these items whenever you want. You don't put items inside and take them back out. So it's basically the same logic as being allowed to use a general store, for example. As a final upgrade, we decided to juggle ourselves some iron ore and some coal, just using our superheat spell with nature runes in order to make some steel bars. We needed 15 steel bars in a single inventory, just so we could upgrade our sink into a nice fancy looking one. So with our house pimped up a little bit, another construction thing I just wanted to knock out was the Fossil Island camp. Basically when you unlock Fossil Island there's a little camp with a few shops and utilities, but they're all broken. So if you bring all the materials like some tinderboxes, ropes, planks, nails, steel bars, all that kind of stuff, you can fix the camp up. And just doing this and then talking to the guy awards you a full set of 5 small fossils, so basically 1 small XP lamp. So we went and did this, got a little bit of a bonus in construction XP. We remained level 48, sadly, it didn't push us up a level, but it was definitely worth doing because it is worth both museum kudos and some fossils, and you need to do it to unlock Volcanic Mine later. So we did this, we spoke to Peter, we took the fossils to the museum and we put it into farming this time instead of herblore. That gave us 2k farming, just pushing us up from 7k XP to 9k XP. So now we can grow Harrowlanders and Limpwort roots, both of which are really, really useful for a bunch of different herblore potions. So that's really good to have. Psst, do us a favour, leave a like. Thanks. Then after that I decided to try and do a little farming trip since we just put a lamp into farming and unlocked some new plants. So I headed to Master Farmers, did some thieving, as well as mining some volcanic ash over on Fossil Island, just because you use this for ultra compost, so that would help our plants grow a little bit better. So with the seeds from the Master Farmer I planted a Limpwort and some Harrowlanders over in Hosidius. We just unlocked both of those plants. A reminder that this farm here can't actually get diseased at all thanks to our grinding the Hosidius Favour in previous episodes. So that's really useful. These will definitely grow, and obviously the produce from these, we'll use those for potions as soon as we can be bothered to come back. We used a little bit of the ash we just mined over at the Ardy farm when we already had our bin full of super compost. If you put some of the volcanic ash into super compost, it turns it into ultra compost, which gives you more yield from plants that you use it on, and also it prevents the plants from dying, so that's really, really useful. We just used a bucket of ultra compost to plant a Limpwort here just because we had the seed on us. And that was all the farming we did right now, so I just dropped everything else. With all our plants in the process of growing, I wanted to get the quest Wanted out of the way. It's another quest where you need a whole bunch of inventory slots. I think it's 20 at least in order to do it, and obviously the full invent's only 28 spaces, so it would be quite tight. So I wanted to get this out of the way as early as possible. Plus it awards 5,000 Slayer XP, which is really, really huge for an account this early on. So I nipped and just made a molten glass in the usual way with supplies from Khazard, and a minigame teleported over to the Berthorpe Slayer Master just to buy a Slayer gem, just because you need both these items to craft the Com Orb during the quest. We also nipped to the Diary Reclaim guy in the Lumbridge Home teleport spot, just to reclaim the Kandarin helmet because it's a light source, and we do need to go underground during this quest. Now for the Wanted quest, we start out by spending 4 full minutes running between 2 knights in Falador up and down these stairs, and just talking to them, in classic RuneScape fashion. It's a quest that's almost solely running about and listening to cutscenes. A lot of them you can't spacebar through, so it kinda sucks. Our goal ultimately in this quest is to capture a dangerous wizard called Solus. So we just start out by entering Tavley Dungeon here over the Falador Wall, heading down to the Black Knights and coercing them to give us some information. After this, we repeatedly use the scan function on the Comorb quest item, just to track the wizard around the map. He basically teleports to a bunch of different locations, and there's basically a cutscene or whatever when you get there, and you keep doing it. Partway through, we seek the help of the Zamorak wizard from the Enter the Abyss mini-quest we did ages ago. He requests 20 rune essence unnoted in return for his help, and obviously you have to deliver those in one trip. That's why we need the 20 invent spaces for this quest. So we can just nip over to Aubrey's shop, teleport straight to the mine, and then just come back upstairs and just run over the road and give them to him. Even if you didn't have the space here, you could probably juggle items on the ground long enough to just run across the street and give him the essence, so it's not too painful, but like I say, it's nice to have this out the way early. Anyway, eventually after a bunch of chasing around, Solus wipes out a whole squad of White Knights, and he finally decides to just stop teleporting away and fight you man to man, so we fight him, we turn in his hat as proof of his demise, and the quest is complete. Kind of a painful one, this. It took about 35 minutes to do this quest. It's just so much walking and so many cutscenes, so it really felt like quite a drag. However, after handing the quest in, we went from 27 Slayer all the way to 31, so it was worth it, and progressing towards our quest cape. With Wanted out the way, I thought I might as well knock out the final White Knight quest in the quest line since we had the stats for it, and it also involves carrying quite a few quest-specific items. The quest, The Slug Menace, sees our player investigate weird goings-on in the Lovecraftian town of Witchhaven on behalf of the White Knights. Basically, there's an evil sea slug queen beneath the town. She's sealed away behind this door of elemental energy. To bypass the door and face her, we need to find some pages that will allow us to subsequently craft some special elemental runes that will act as the key. Now, normally to create these special runes, we'd have to either venture into the Wildy and go through the Abyss into the different runecrafting altars, which is never fun, obviously you're at risk of being PK'd, or we'd have to go find certain monsters that drop all 5 of the talismans we'd need, and having 5 talismans with us would be quite a drain on our invent space, so that's not really an ideal option either. Luckily, however, with the release of the Guardians of the Rift Runecraft minigame, we can actually enter the elemental altars inside there, and it does count for the quest, so we're going to do that instead. Anyway, I hopped to the official server and joined a couple of games. There is a chance to fail when you craft the rune essence into the special blank runes, and then there's an additional chance to fail when you turn the blank runes into the actual special runes themselves. Because of this, I didn't actually manage to make all 5 of the runes in a single game, just because I could only afford to bring in 9 essence with us. So that did mean I had to wait out a full game of Guardians of the Rift for the next one to start, and then enter the second one, and complete our set of runes with the last Earth rune in the second match. Plus, I couldn't actually play the minigame while I was just killing time here because we simply didn't have enough bag space for the different kinds of essence and all the rewards and batteries and things you have to turn in to play the game. Because of this, as soon as we managed to craft our special Earth rune in the second match, I decided to just straight away leave the minigame. There was no point staying and trying to earn any points with just 5 inventory spaces. Anyway, with our runes crafted, we were ready to face the Slug Queen back in Witchhaven. Just briefly, I nipped to Varrock first to buy some extremely budget combat gear. Literally, I went to the sword shop and bought an Addy sword, and then I went over to the armor shop and I bought iron plate legs and a myth chain. I know that's embarrassingly bad, but at least it provides some combat defense bonuses, and I just really didn't want to invest any money at all into combat gear, just because as soon as we'd done this boss fight, I'd be selling it back or dropping it or something. And like I said before, we want all our money for other stuff. So I nipped over to the Brimhaven food store real quick, just grabbed a couple pieces of food, some swordfish, lobsters and karambwans, and then we headed and killed the boss. It was no problem at all. It's just a melee enemy at 62 combat, and that's that. A little bit of XP from this one. It pushed our runecraft up to 37, which is kind of nice. It also gives us the ability to purchase proselyte armor from the White Knights, which is some decent melee armor with a little bit of a beefy prayer bonus on it. We'll probably end up using this later down the line when we've unlocked protection prayers and we're doing some proper Slayer tasks. Anyway, with the whole White Knight quest series out the way, we no longer really needed any quest items in our inventory, so what I was able to do is slim down our inventory as much as possible in order to go back and play some proper Guardians of the Rift games. As you can see here, I've ditched everything aside from the very bare essentials to play, like our pickaxe, our chisel. We've also kept our stack of cash, and we've kept our little stack of fish that we use to feed our kittens while we're here. The reason we're runecrafting is a number of reasons, actually. You only need 55 runecraft in total to unlock every quest in the game, and since our goal is ultimately to get the quest cape, then I thought we might as well just knock out the 55 runecraft so that's said and done. Plus, it's actually a surprisingly decent moneymaker for us on this kind of account. As soon as you unlock the Ali Morrisane rune shop, you can sell runes to him at a stable price, it never changes. So we can just go ditch all our unwanted runes at his shop for a decent amount of money. As well as that, reaching the level to craft our own nature and lore runes will save us a whole ton of GP, because we're always going to need those throughout the game for teleports, superheats, alchemy, stuff like that, and they're always overpriced in shops. And finally, you also earn pearls by doing this minigame. There's a special minigame store with some unique items. Specifically, we want to go after the teleport ring. I think it's 400 pearls or something like that, so we'll be saving our pearls up as well, just to save towards that teleport ring, because again, that's going to help us get around the game. So with a couple of matches under our belt, our cat was fully grown, so I went and sold that for death runes. Then I nipped over to Ali Morrisane just to sell all of our runes to him for cash. So we had some cash, we had a little over 100k. That's enough to build both the portal room and buy some teak planks to build the portals inside, so I decided to nip over and do that now just while we had the cash and the time. So I used a little bit of our cash stack to make some teak planks, just went and did the one teak tree over by Castle Wars, and then I nipped over to the limestone mine and mined and chiselled some limestone bricks, just for the teleport focus you have to build in the centre of the room. Headed into our house, we brewed up a tasty pot of tea, and then we got a +2 boost from our 48 construction to the 50 that we needed. I spent the 100k on the portal room, then ran around building the 3 teak frames and the limestone focus in the centre before the 1 minute boost ran out. You don't actually need to maintain the boosted level in order to charge up the portals themselves, you just need the level to build the room and build the portals initially, so we're set for whenever we come back with enough runes to charge these up. It's just that we will need a few hundred lore runes to charge up all 3 of these, as well as whatever other miscellaneous runes the teleport spell requires. So we're broke and we need a whole bunch of runes, so the obvious thing is to head back to Guardians of the Rift. Since our house is just south of the Hosidius farm, however, I nipped outside and went and picked our Haralander that we decided to grow earlier, and just whatever other miscellaneous crops were here. I used these Haralanders just up north. We can run up, buy some empty vials, and then make Haralander potions. And then up here there is just a food shop that sells chocolate bars, so we could grind the chocolate into energy potions with the Haralander mix, and then we just sold everything to the general store. With our inventory once again empty, we could head back and do some more runecraft. So we headed back into Guardians of the Rift for some more runecraft. There's not going to be much getting in the way of our runecrafting now for a little while. I think our next roadblock will be at 65, where we probably need to do some quests in order to be able to craft death runes in here. But I don't currently intend to go that high in terms of the skill, and the only reason we're still here is just to fill out our house portals and get this teleport ring. Once we've done all that, I might come back here just to make money in future, but I don't actively plan on training this skill any higher than we have to. Anyway, just checking in here after 36 more claims. Got ourselves a nice few runes, the standout of these drops being 111 nature runes, that's a really nice one to pull. And we also pulled a red dye, which is a unique from this minigame, normally used to recolour a piece of the skilling outfit. However, since we're not going for the outfit on this account, we'll just trade the dye in with the NPC. He'll give us 50 pearls for this, which is far more useful because that's 1/8 of what we need for our teleport ring, so that's good. Coming in here with 54 runecraft, a bit more Guardians of the Rift. It's nice because we've already unlocked natures and now we've unlocked lore runes, and those two are kind of a mini goal along the way, so that's really cool to have. While we play this game, we'll be able to craft both of those while we're in here. And those are both runes that sell for a fair bit of money and runes that we kind of want to keep. However, in the subsequent game, I found out you actually need to go complete the Troll Stronghold quest in order to be able to make lore runes in this minigame. It'd be kind of crazy to not do it, since one of the main reasons we're here is to get lore runes for our house tallies. So I did decide to just finish off our current game here. I pulled a nature tally from the rewards, so I just nipped outside to the essence mine, grabbed some essence, and then we fairy ringed over to Karamja and crafted some nature runes in the traditional way. Just because this is a task for the Karamja diary, and it makes perfect sense to do it while we have a nature tally on us, because otherwise it's normally quite a rare drop. So I decided to do Troll Stronghold straight away, just to unlock the lores. We've already completed Death Plateau, as you might remember in a previous video, so that's cool. Just between the clips, I did turn our Nature Talisman into a Silver Tiara, just because we had nothing in our head slot anyway, so this will allow us to keep the ability to enter the Nature Altar and equip it on our head, just so we don't need it in our invent, so that's cool. So we start the quest out and we go get our climbing boots back from the Sherpa. I, for some reason, didn't bring any food, even though there's a lot of combat on this quest, which is kind of stupid. So I really quickly, while at the dude's house, decided to kill his whole stock of chickens, basically, and then cook them on his cooking fire. Just to get as many cooked chickens as we could to bring us some emergency food when we headed into the troll-filled mountains. Famously, you can safe spot most of the trolls on this quest that you actually have to fight. So this first big guy, we just stuck to the north here, and he gets trapped on the rock and you can just mage him, so that was absolutely easy. We don't have the protect from range prayer to get past the thrower trolls on the way there, but luckily at this point in our account we've got our agility high enough to take the shortcuts up and down Edgar's Mountain, so we can actually go around the back of the thrower trolls and they don't attack us, so that's really helpful. It's also really helpful to do this quest while having quite a high HP level. All the trolls around are aggressive to us because of our combat level compared to theirs, so they like to give you a nice cheeky smack just as you're running around, so you really do need some kind of food if you are here. Anyway, while inside the troll stronghold, we had to kill a general for a prison key so we could release some army soldiers. I did mess up the mage safe spot here and got donked to 33. I ran to the back of the room and panic ate the rest of our chickens, but that only healed us up to something like 27 health. So if I had taken another hit, I probably would have died, and we'd have dropped our whole inventory of stuff out here in the middle of nowhere in a really dangerous spot. So it was kind of stupid that I didn't get good food first before doing this, but luckily we did manage to continue safe spotting him on the door, and finish him off and grab the key and get out of there. Down in the jail, you can either choose to fight these guards or pickpocket them to try and get the jail cell key. I did try the thieving method. The first one worked. The second one, it failed and he woke up and attacked us. But luckily I could run inside the jail cell and the troll was too big to fit through, so I just maged him through the door, killed him in a completely safe way, grabbed the key and released the soldiers. With our objectives here done for safety, I just teleported out to Ardee Monastery just to get away from the danger. I immediately ran up to the bakery stall and just stole some food to eat up to full health. After doing this though, we had a few minutes left on our cooldown to minigame tally back up to Berthorpe and hand the quest in, so I just went to pick our limpwork route that we planted earlier here at Ardee, and I just did a quick birdhouse run. After these, I finally went to finish the quest, and as a thanks for returning this guy's son from the grasp of the trolls, we're awarded the Lore Talisman as well as the ability to craft lore runes back inside Guardians of the Rift. For some reason there's no other rewards for this quest, even though it's quite perilous. A lot harder than some other quests around here that do give you rewards, so that's kind of strange. Just one stingy quest point, but I guess it's fine. We only came here to get the lore runes and we've unlocked that. So as you can see here, we're back at Guardians and we can now make lore runes inside, which is amazing. They do sell for quite a lot to Ali if you don't want to keep them, but obviously we want them for our teleports around the game and to fill out our house portals. Couple more searches here, just got ourselves up to 167 of our 400 pearls, so that's nice. After a couple of games here, just taking a break because we did manage to get up to 270k cash in both money and unneeded runes, and over 300 lores on us. So we stocked up on some bricks and teak planks. I decided to spend a lot of this cash, so I just nipped to our house, we boosted and made a second portal room with 100k of the money, and we created a study room just using some more of our coins, and we used the oak planks just to create a demon lectern in there. As you can see, it allows us to create Lumbridge, Varrock and Falador Tele tabs if we decide to. We certainly want the house teleport tabs when we eventually get the construction level to get the lectern that can make those. I think it's 60 something. It's one of the higher level lecterns. Anyway, after this I boosted again to make a third portal room and frames in my house, so now we have the ability to fill up to 9 different portals, which should put us over for a really long time. I used the lores we'd made up to this point, as well as a few extra runes, to create a portal to both Falador and Varrock. Both these destinations need waters and fires respectively normally, so we could teleport to our house and then teleport to those if we didn't want to carry those runes with us. And I also decided to just make a third portal, just a Lumbridge, just for convenience. Cleared out our remaining runes at Ali and we got back to work in Guardians of the Rift. Oh yeah, and after 96 clears of the minigame I got the pet. Wasn't expecting it and really honestly didn't want it on this account. I don't know what to do with it at this point. He's just kind of following me. The issue with this guy is he either needs to stay in our inventory or we need to drop him behind us, which means we can't be raising cats at the same time, which I have been doing for a while. So I'm just really not sure. Didn't expect to pull him, it's kind of thrown me aside, so we'll just keep him for now and think about it later. Little detour here, just added an Arceus library and Draenor mana portal to our house. Obviously, having the ability to teleport over to Zaya without the book on us is really helpful. And also, this is our first teleport to the Draenor village area without using that DIS fairy ring. Another nice level coming in at Guardians of the Rift here, 59 runecraft. Yeah, we've passed the 55 we originally came here to get, but I'm enjoying the easy money, and we still have portals in our house to fill out, and obviously the ring to buy with the pearls. 59 is a nice cool level because it gives us the ability to make double cosmic runes instead of singles, so whenever we craft cosmics in here, that's basically just more money when we sell them to Ali Morrisane afterwards. Another unique here, we pulled the Abyssal Needle. Normally this is used to make the Colossal Rune Crafting Pouch, where you can hold 40 essence in a single inventory space, but obviously we can't use inventory enhancing containers, so we're never going to use that, so I just dropped it on the floor. Sadly, we can't trade this unique in for pearls like we could with the dye, but we do have 220 of our 400 pearls now, so at least that's something. 60 runecraft coming in, enough to infuse crystals from Cerberus into some of the best in-slot boots in the game, maybe one day, but fighting Cerberus is a really, really long way off for us, so it's not really worth thinking about at the minute. 22 more claims here puts us at 246 of our 400 pearls. Going a little bit dry on these pearls so far, sadly, but still having a decent time playing this. Really quickly took a detour. We nipped over to Zaya because we had some cash to spend, to one of the few shops in the game that actually stocks soul runes. These are one of the few runes you can't craft inside Guardians of the Rift, along with Wraths, Astrals, and I think that's it. They otherwise take like 90 runecraft to make, or you have to go kill specific monsters that drop them really rarely. So we bought 200 for around 100,000 coins, just to be able to put a Salve Graveyard teleport portal in our house. This is a really cool destination because it puts you in the Canifis area, one of the few tellies that can do that, and it's quite low level magic required to make the portal. And it also puts you, I think it's one of the closest teleports to a fairy ring, puts you really right next to one, and next to a mushroom patch, and quite close to the Slayer Tower, so it's a really multifaceted teleport to unlock, so it's really nice to have on the account here. So I've been saying for a while that I want to do the Ghosts Ahoy quest just before going for our Ava's accumulator device, just to enable us to enter and exit the town of Port Phasmatis for free, instead of crafting ecto tokens each time. So we'll go do the Ghosts Ahoy quest now. I just quickly grabbed a silk and an oak longbow from various shops in Varrock. Then I nipped down to Lumbridge to grab our Ghost Peak amulet back, and I just scooted over to the Draenor village jail nearby just to pick some nettles, because we do need some nettle tea for this quest. Teleported over to Lumbridge and used the recipe for disaster food shop just to grab some pieces to make the nettle tea, for example some bowls of water and some milk. Then nipped over to Alcarid just to go to the crafting shop for a needle and thread, which we'd also need later, and then I went straight to our house and went through our brand new Salve Graveyard portal just to get to Canifis quite quickly. I ran over towards the quest start, but to initially enter the town you do still need some ecto tokens. These are a currency you create by grinding bones into dust in this tower outside town, and you then combine the bones with some slime that you can gather in buckets in the basement below. Without the level for any of the agility shortcuts down here, a full trip takes us nearly 2 minutes, so we do want to avoid doing this as much as possible. Just grinded 3 lots of bones that we grabbed from the chickens nearby the tower, and we created enough tokens just to enter the town. We will need to make some more later, but this is all we need for this point. Inside we agreed to help a restless spirit named Velarina. Basically there's an evil necromancer that prevents these ghostly citizens from being able to pass on to the afterlife, and that's kind of not cool, so we agreed to stop him. To find out how to stop him, we go have a chat with his mum, have a nice cup of nettle tea with her, and then we learn that the key to controlling this guy lies buried somewhere marked by a wholly original pirate treasure map, but sadly the map's been broken into 3 pieces. So for this quest we have to go around and find the 3 pieces of his map. To get one of them we need to create a toy replica boat or something. I don't really know why, to be honest. I've never read the quest deeply enough to understand this. But we basically have to go to this wrecked shipwreck quite near the quest, and then take this toy boat, note down the colours of the flag on the ship, and then dye the toy boat's flag the same colours, I guess for some kind of magic or whatever. So we fight off this giant lobster that attacks us in the ship, just really quickly using the oak longbow that we brought for the quest just to safe spot him, which was quite convenient, and then we climb up to the top of the ship just to check out the colours of the flag so we can know what dyes to bring. At this stage we have to teleport away to gather some dyes. I didn't bring any dyes with us during this quest because this part's different for everyone. You have 3 different dye colours to get, and it can be any of the dyes available in the game, so to bring 3 lots of every dye just isn't feasible for us. I made 3 separate trips over to Aggie the Dye Maker in Draenor Village with materials for each dye. Just because of our invent limitations I couldn't do that in one trip either. We ended up needing a yellow, an orange and a blue dye, so I had to collect onions twice, red berries and some woad leaves, take them to her along with some coins. It wasn't super painful because we did make the Draenor Manor portal in our house, so I could just teleport over to Draenor Manor each time and run south across the road to get to her. Speaking of our house portals, we used our Self-Graveyard portal to get back to the nearby fairy ring, and then used it just to hop over to the ring that's closer to Port Phasmatis to continue the shipwreck part of the quest. We turned in the completed replica ship to this weird homeless man-child pirate in exchange for a key to his treasure chest, which contains one of the fragments of the treasure map that we need. The final fragment is over these nearby rocks in another chest. However, this part of the quest has a really unique, thrilling gameplay element where each of these jumps costs you 5 run energy, and if you don't have 5 run energy, then you can't attempt each jump, so you literally have to stand at each one, waiting for your energy to tick up to 5 so you can hop over. Really, really great gameplay design. Obviously this would be a lot quicker if you had better agility or the graceful outfit on, but we don't have either of those, so we just stood here waiting. Anyway, this third fragment completes our map, so I monastery teleported away with our Ardy Cloak over to some trader crew members, buy a few pots of slime from them, as well as a few empty pots to fill with some more bone meal, because we would have to go back and make some more ecto tokens. I took a ferry over to a small island nearby, where our treasure map was pointing. Headed to the location and we dug up this dude's secret diary, which contains the information of how to stop him. We attempt to incite a revolution with the ghostly citizens of the town, but unfortunately none of this actually ends up doing anything. We talk to some other guy, we do some gambling, we talk to another guy, we hand in this bow or something, but none of it actually does anything. The quest only progresses because the main necromancer accidentally drops the key to his bedroom on the floor, and we can head inside his bedroom, take an item of his clothing, and use this to enchant our Ghost Speak amulet in order to control him, and we convince him, forcefully, to leave the ghosts of the town alone. This completes the quest. Our prayer level from this went from 24 all the way up to 27, so a nice little chunk of XP. And obviously we earned ourselves free passage in and out of the port whenever we like. We also earned access to the ectophile item. It's like a whiskey decanter full of green goo that teleports you over here whenever you like with unlimited charges. And we can freely destroy this, either come back here and reclaim it, or reclaim it from our best pal Purdue back in Lumbridge for only 3k coins. Anyway, we headed into Tears of Guthix because it was that time of the week again. We went and drank ourselves some of the tasty, tasty cave juice, and this further increased our prayer from 27 to 30 because it was apparently our lowest level skill at this point. Just 13 more levels needed for those game-changing protection prayers, so that's really cool. Just while out and about, I went and dropped 80k on unlocking the CIS fairy ring near the Arceus library. Basically, before you come here, it's just a dead fairy ring, so you can pay this wizard nearby 80,000 coins just to revive the fairy ring. So that gives you one extra teleport destination when using the fairy ring teleport system, and it's actually a really useful one. It's the best way to get over to the Dark Altar to change your spellbook to the Arceus book. It's also close to the Arceus library, which we do have a portal for in our house. Also a good way to get to the Wintertop minigame if you don't happen to have a games necklace on you. And it's also a very, very short walk over to the minecart transport system that we will unlock later when we come back to Zaya and we start work on the Loverkench mining favour. Thought I'd change things up just a little bit and work on a little bit of woodcutting. I went to try the Sulicep cutting method over on Fossil Island. Basically, you cut these giant mushrooms with a woodcutting axe at 65 or above woodcutting. So we picked up the anti-poison that spawns over near the observatory, and we just did a little bit of woodcutting over there. So here we are anyway, dropping off 5 more small fossils into a herblore lamp, pushing us up to 33 herblore, and as you can see in the invent, we also got some larger fossils as well in the meantime, so it's a decent method for fossils, but it's just we don't get to train our combats. So with that herblore, I just decided to change things up a little bit. We just went to bang out our skeleton slayer task because it's a really easy one, so we're just under Varrock here killing some skeletons, nothing of note. Decided to complete a Lumbridge medium task just by getting our next slayer task over at Chaeldar down in Xanaris. Sadly, she gave us 115 lesser demons, which sounds like a real pain right now, so we'll just do that later, I guess. At this point we're 59 range, so it's about time we go and unlock our Ava's Device backpack from the Animal Magnetism quest. This is a cape slot item which gives you some range DPS as well as a nice ammo saving effect. So we paid a quick visit over to the ham members just to pickpocket some polished buttons to start us off. I also grabbed a cowhide for the leather we need as well as some iron bars. As an Ironman, you need to get your own holy symbol. You need 31 prayer for this, so I decided to get the one last prayer level we needed for this quest, just south of Lumbridge at these giant frogs that we killed before. As far as I know, these are the weakest enemies in the game that drop big bones over regular bones, so I just maged some of these and buried their bones just until we hit 31. I took a piece of wool with us to the crafting guild where there's a holy mould spawn as well as a spinning wheel so we can make this into a ball of wool. There's also silver ore here which we'd need to craft our holy symbol, but sadly for whatever reason there's no furnace here at the crafting guild. So I was able to superheat a silver bar here, but I'd still need a furnace in order to melt the bar into the mould. But that wasn't too big a deal, as we needed to be up in Edgeville to go to the monastery and have our holy symbol blessed, so I just turned it into an unblessed symbol on the way at the furnace just next to the bank. Since we had 31 prayer required to enter the monastery, I also pinched a monk robe bottom just while we were passing, just because we had nothing in that slot and prayer bonus is always nice. I brought some pots and bones, as we'd need to make more ecto tokens at this point just to pay an NPC during this quest. We need to go buy some undead chickens from a farm over near Port Phasmatis. So we grabbed our ecto file back from Purdue for 3k and teleported directly to the ectofunctus, a really useful unlock like I said when we did the quest. Grinded our bone meal and used our free town access from doing Ghost Ahoy just to enter the gate and buy ourselves a little bit of slime from the traders over on the docks, made our ecto tokens and we purchased the chickens and continued the quest. I did have to drop a couple of our iron bars on the way here, so I had to go get those back now that we had our inventory space back. Used our house portal to teleport directly to Draenor Manor, handed in our chickens, and we traded our iron bars to a friendly witch in the back room for a magnet, which I just attuned over in Rimington and ran straight back here. Handed everything into Ava. Last on our list is some undead wood. There are undead trees right outside the mansion, but sadly you can't cut these with a normal axe. We need some kind of blessed axe. So we take this mithril axe that we picked up at the woodcutting guild shop, as well as our holy symbol that we just made, take these over to Terrail in Burthorpe and have them combined into a blessed axe. This axe is good enough to chop down the undead trees, so we grab ourselves some undead twigs, head inside, turn these in, and these, along with our leather and our polished buttons that we grabbed earlier, we turn into Ava, we help her decipher her blueprints, and it's quest complete. The XP rewards for this are pretty small, but we did hit 32 Slayer, which is kind of nice. It unlocks Mogres, and also we unlock the range store, which obviously stocks the accumulators that we came here for, but also stocks a couple of arrows and little bits for fletching, so that's nice to have unlocked. Completed a medium Lumbridge task just by buying one of the level 50 Ava's devices from her store. Next up, I grabbed a little bit of ranged armour back and just some studded gear, just in preparation to do the big chompy bird hunting quest. But on the way, we just nipped over to Catherby to do a cheeky farming trip. I'd already planted some limpworts here just because it's a medium Kandarin task to harvest some here, and they were ready. And we also picked a nice bumper crop of Harrowlanders, which pushed us past the 29 farming level, which is really nice. And then I was able to turn these into compost potions using our stack of volcanic ash and some empty plant cure vials, and that gave us exactly 420 Herblore XP, so that's absolutely epic. I scooted down to start the big chompy bird hunting quest. This is a quest where you help some ogres hunt some birds for something to eat, and it's also a direct prereq for some other quests, including another step of Recipe for Disaster, and it also has a little bit of a ranged XP reward, so really nice to do. Anyway, the stupid quest guide said there was no combat to do, so of course I didn't use an inventory space to bring a weapon along. And obviously it turns out that you do need to kill a couple of wolves, which are quite high level, so I ended up just having to bonk those with our Draymond staff, as you can see. Apart from this, the quest was fairly painless. Actually, it's probably the easiest it's ever gone for me. I've done this quest a couple of times. The Chompy spawned on the first toad, which was really nice, and after learning what accompaniments the ogre children wanted to eat with their roast Chompy, I succeeded in cooking the Chompy itself first time as well. It's good because it took so long to kill the wolves for enough bones for the arrow tips. It was nice to actually get some luck in the other aspects of the quest. With this complete, I came straight back and did the follow-up Recipe for Disaster quest called Freeing Scratch Ulgokui, or whatever. Again, this was fairly painless. I've done this quest a load of times, and the Jubbly bird cooked first time once again. One thing to note, though, is how absolutely huge Jubblies are if you zoom in and stand next to them. They're actually taller than you, which is crazy. Anyway, I very carefully right-click used the Jubbly so as not to eat it on the guy in the Lumbridge Castle and just freed him. Got a little bit of miscellaneous XP, pretty much nothing, but more importantly we unlocked some new gloves in the Recipe for Disaster shop. These black gloves give us an additional +1 in all the stats over our steel gloves, so those are really nice to have. And we're one more quest down towards fighting the Culinary himself and completing RFD in its entirety. While I was in an ogre mood, I thought I might as well complete the final ogre quest that we're currently able to, called Zoga Flesh Eaters. After this, there'll only be Watchtower quests left, but that's for another day. This is an interesting quest, this one. It involves dealing with a bunch of zombie ogres in the ogre burial grounds near Castle Wars. It might have been a good idea to save this quest till later, because you're actually given 2 super restores when you begin this quest, and they might have been useful somewhere else, like a difficult quest boss fight or something, for example. But I'm not too worried about waiting for things like that, just because things like the Grubby Chest exist, where you can pull super restores with a key. Uniquely, this quest introduces a disease status effect, which only exists, I think, here and at the new Nightmare boss over in Sleep. This is an effect that periodically drains your stats down at random until it's cured, hence being given some super restores at the start of the quest. However, it's not much of a threat these days, as you can simply use your dueling ring to teleport away to the Ferox Enclave, drink that restoring juice we've used prior in this series, and not only does that reset your health, your prayer, and all your stats to full, it also cures poison and disease, so it's really not much of a threat in the modern game. Anyway, we delve into the dark depths of the dead. We recover ourselves a beer tankard from inside with the markings of the Yanel pub, so we head over there to investigate and we talk to the bartender and see if he knows anything about the owner of the tankard. With the help of the wizards from the Yanel Wizards Guild, we discover that a member of the town is actually an evil ogre sorcerer disguised as a human. He claims that his zombie spell will last forever, and there's no cure. So we head back inside the ogre burial grounds, down to a deeper level, to see if we can find some way to get rid of his plague. Of course, a big stinky quest boss zombie appears when we try and retrieve a sacred ogre artifact from down there, so I just safe spotted him behind this random pile of skulls with the Crumble Undead spell, which is really strong against him. I did actually forget that he does have some kind of range or mage attack, so he was damaging us in the meantime, as well as our stats being drained by the disease. But we actually managed to kill him, because I did bring a couple of food in the form of a few cakes, so it wasn't really a big deal. As soon as he died, I grabbed the quest item, along with his valuable ogre bones that he drops, just really quickly teleported back to Ferox to restore our stats and cure the disease once again, and then we went over and handed in the quest. The XP reward from this pushed us up to 34 Herblore, which is really nice to have, and we can also come back here later if we bring a disease cure potion with us. We can turn it into the ogres, they learn how to make it, I guess, and then they unlock a shop that sells us disease cure potions directly. So maybe if we ever get around to doing Nightmare, we can come back and unlock that, and that'll be helpful, but right this minute, it's of no use to us. I return back to the Ectofunctus once again with these special ogre bones, just to turn them into Ecto tokens and give us some nice juicy prayer XP for them. We only had a couple, so it wasn't a massive amount of XP, but it did hit us up to level 32, so that's decent. Anyway, sod it, we'll call the episode over here. Cheers for tuning in, guys. As ever, this has been another episode of Bag Only. I'm Game Goblin. Bit of progress on screen if you want to check our stats. Quests we completed today. Animal magnetism, big chompy bird hunting, ghosts ahoy. We started making history, but we didn't actually do any of it. RFD scrack, we did the slug menace, we did Tower of Life. For some reason I've written that in lowercase, but I'm leaving it, screw you. We did Troll Stronghold, we did Wanted, and we did Zoga Flesh Eaters. We're at 1195 total. A lot of our stats around the 50 mark, so we're very nearly in the mid game here. The accounts are really raring up, so thanks for tuning in. Show up next time if you want to. If you don't, have a great life.